Welcome to another 21 Hats Dashboard brought to you by our sponsor, The Great Game of Business. I'm Lauren Feldman. I'm here with Gene Marks. Welcome, Gene.
Hello, Lauren. It's been a while.
It's been too long. It's great to have you back. What have you been up to? You been traveling?
I've been Charleston, Asheville, back to Charleston,
nice places.
Louisville, Atlanta. I'm looking at my calendar now. Oklahoma City, Dallas, Chicago, and Providence, Rhode Island this month.
You've just been driving around.
Yes, been driving around aimlessly with nothing better to do. So, but speaking to a lot of very interesting groups, a lot of associations, and it's been good. It's been really good. Been learning a lot.
Have you come away from it with a sense for the mood of...
Things ain't great. It's slow and it's a little, I speak to associations, the Industrial Fasteners Institute and the Association of Corrugated Containers. They do packaging and, they're, the Gasket Fabricators Association, a lot of really sexy people. Wow. You can imagine. But they're all struggling. All these industries right now, manufacturing's struggling. One bright spot is Bidenomics. The ones that are selling into the construction industry are doing a little bit better. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But the ones that are just straight manufacturing, not as much. And then I spoke to the Massachusetts Bankers Association last week, and they're not making many loans. Mortgage rates are high, and so is the prime rate. You know what I mean? So
they're not making loans because the demand isn't there, or
demand isn't there. I mean, the interest rates are too high, and they're cutting back on credit availability. They're all reporting. So that ain't great. So that's what's going on.
Well, speaking of things that aren't great, I hate talking about issues like this, but it seems pretty inescapable that we're about to have a government shutdown. I was surprised to see that according to a Goldman Sachs survey, fully 70% of small businesses expect to be negatively impacted, most because of economic uncertainty and instability. And I guess that's understandable. How big a deal do you think it'll be?
It like everything else, it depends on the business that you're in and what you're doing. I mean, I think a lot of services businesses will be okay. I think anybody doing business with the government are going to have to just wait longer to get paid. I think it's more of a headache. And then, of course, there's all these businesses that rely on government workers, but nobody's coming into work anymore. So I'm not sure, how much more it's going to affect them. There's going to be a lot of annoyances for a lot of businesses. I've got a lot of travel scheduled over the next couple of weeks, and I'm concerned about, delays, traffic controllers and TSA and all that. People applying for passports, relying on the IRS, the Small Business Administration. All those things are going to be, suspended, and it's just going to be annoying. And I think a lot of businesses are going to, have some issues around that. Nothing they can do.
It's hard to imagine how you prepare for something like this. I mean, there's no telling how long it might last. It could hit and be over in a couple of days, or it could drag on. Do you have any advice at all for anybody who's trying to figure out how to cope?
It's too late. If you and I had this conversation, like we should have, if I was around a month ago, then we could have said okay, well, here's how we can prepare. I do want to say this comes as no surprise, right, Lauren? I mean, if you and I were having this conversation in July and we were talking about September 30th, how there was going to be, the government was facing a shutdown. Is there any question? Would we have had any question that there was going to be a shutdown? I don't think so.
Well, I mean, you never know for sure. And I don't know. I mean, you're at this point, it certainly looks as if you are correct.
I mean, Washington being what it is and, the political environment.
But it's so stupid. And you would like to think that saner minds would somehow prevail.
Right. But I guess my point is that if you are impacted by the government shutting down and you haven't prepared for it, then that's on you. Because it's not like an asteroid hit us or a hurricane came through unexpectedly.
Nope, that's legit.
So, if you weren't squirreling away money and you're talking to your customers and preparing your suppliers and your employees and, taking all those precautionary steps or having a battle plan in place, then it's on you. Because to me, I just think it's a no, it's just not a surprise. The government's shutting down. I thought it was inevitably going to happen. The last round, when they had their last round of funding, they just pushed it to September 30th, and you just knew it was going to come back and be an issue. So here we are.
All right, next topic. You wrote recently about the IRS shutting down the Employee Retention Tax Credit Program. Couple of things on this. First, shouldn't most businesses be done with this by now?
No. And so first of all, they didn't shut it down. They just suspended it. Okay.
Right.
You know, it's
Exactly.
not
That's what I meant. Shut down temporarily.
Temporarily through the end of the year. They're coming up with, there's been a lot of bad actors that have been involved in this, you know, employee retention credit thing. And, you know, the IRS has been buried in returns, you know, quite a few of them, you know, not, you know, relevant. So they just had to take a pause. And now they're going to give businesses the chance to, you know, fess up if they think that they filed a bad amended return for whatever reason. They're coming up with a process for how you can re-amend the amendment and give the money back.
For whatever reason, meaning maybe they were a little bit too aggressive, or maybe they fell for one of those ploys, for one of the mills that reached out to them and they were encouraged. Either way, there's still time to correct it.
That is correct. So you can, whether it was an honest mistake, or maybe it was a willful mistake, or maybe you just got hoonswalked by one of these ERC mills. The IRS is basically saying it's okay, but we're coming up with a process so that you can re-amend the amended return and, you know, give the money back, and all will be fine without interest or penalties. So that's happening.
What do you do if you're concerned that you might have a problem? Who do you take your return to?
You wait, because they're coming up with the process right now. So we're waiting to hear from the IRS what that process will be.
So you can't get ahead of it by like taking it to the accountant you should have taken it to.
I would not recommend doing that.
Okay.
No, I would not, because there's literally, for all I know, the IRS is coming up with a specific form to use, or a specific procedure to follow. And we don't know that. So all I would do is, I would start lining up my ducks in order. If you think you have to give the money back, you might want to make sure the money's there.
Good thought.
And then also you want to, talk to your accountant or your payroll service company and make sure that they're standing by and ready for when we get the instruction from the IRS. And then you asked originally, shouldn't most, this credit starts expiring in April of 2024. And, there's still procrastinators that are out there. There are still people that are out there that, believe it or not, are not aware of this tax credit. I know it sounds crazy.
Even though they're getting 5 phone calls a day?
They're still not, they haven't been paying attention. They're not aware. They don't really know what it is. And so, so there's people that are still out there. They got time. They're still allowed to. They put it off for whatever reason. And so they're out there. And those are the ones that get hurt the most. They delayed, and now they're waiting, or they haven't filed their return yet. And now it's suspended even longer. It could take 6 months now before you get any refund back from the IRS, they say.
Right. Was this program a good idea?
That's I don't think I've ever been really given it a thought. It was one of those, pandemic era things.
American Rescue Plan 2020.
Yeah, to try and provide. There was the Paycheck Protection Program, and then there was...
this one kind of flew under the radar for a while. I don't think people knew it was coming.
Agreed. And it's, of course, when you think about how ridiculous it is, the onslaught of returns that got filed, these amended payroll tax returns, they came once businesses started waking up to being like, oh, wow, there's this huge credit out there I could be getting months and months and months after the pandemic. The whole idea was, right, that it's during the pandemic, they're trying to provide the government financing for businesses, rewarding businesses for keeping their employees employed. And now, it's 2024, when they can apply and still get the money back.
Even though they've obviously survived. Or actually, I should ask you, if your business, if you just went out of business, could you still file for retaining your employees during the period when this applied?
Yeah, as long as, the business has to be still active as an entity.
It does. It has to be active. So.
Yeah, as an entity. But you could have declared bankruptcy, or you could have liquidated but still kept the business open. In other words, you haven't closed out your final tax returns. And then, you can go back. If it was taxes that you overpaid back when you were in operation.
Seems like there must have been a better way to do this.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree. These are all lessons learned from the pandemic. What can I tell you?
Well, I hope they're learned. That's the thing. Are they learned?
Yeah. It's funny when I look back at the different pandemic things that were tried, even with the Paycheck Protection Program and all the fraud that occurred and all of that. I truly feel like this was like your government representatives really trying to do something to help small businesses.
I'm glad you said that because I feel the same way. I think that it's hard to remember what the sense was at the time, but if you go back then, I think we all would have agreed let's err on the side of just shooting too much money into the economy, not too little.
We all were at the time, Lauren. I mean, when this hit and they were locking down and shutting down, you're like, holy shit, what am I going to do? And then to hear the government come and then say, listen, we're going to take care of you. We're going to have this paycheck protection. We're going to have the employee protection. It was like a lot of business owners were like, oh, thank God. I mean, we were really, so and like I said, they put these together rather, fast and, there were holes in them and subject to fraud. And here we go. It could have been better if more thought was put into it, but I don't hold our representatives accountable.
They had to move quickly.
They did. They moved quickly. And I think in a bipartisan way too, by the way.
Right.
So.
Yep. All right, last topic. You also wrote recently that I really enjoy this, you hate LinkedIn, but you feel you need to use it. Why do you hate it and why do you use it?
It's funny about that. That got a lot of traffic, actually.
I'm not surprised.
Editor of The Guardian, and it was just like, I go on LinkedIn and it like depresses me, because like, everybody is crushing it on LinkedIn. Everybody's winning on LinkedIn. It is like a community of Charlie Sheens. Everybody is like, they're presenting here. They get accolades there. They were so pleased to be part of this. And, oh, I'm so honored to be on, participating on this panel with such luminaries, meaning, you're a luminary too, right? Or congratulate me on my new job or my position. Everybody is fucking killing it on LinkedIn. And it drives me nuts. It's so cringy. And you all know it's not true.
Some of that is just LinkedIn doing it. I wasn't aware that I just had my 5th anniversary of leaving Forbes to start 21 Hats. I had no idea until I started getting congratulations on your 5th year anniversary back. And LinkedIn just sent it out for me.
Yeah, they just sent it out. You're like, geez, I didn't even ask you to do it. I guess we did. There was some setting that you forgot to
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I forgot to not click the send out the 5th year anniversary button.
Yeah. And so there's all that's going on LinkedIn, and it's annoying to me. And I also know it's a bunch of baloney because these people we're all not doing as good as we say we're doing. We all suffer from imposter syndrome.
We're also not all as young as our pictures look.
That's also true. We're not as young as our pictures. We're not, it's just a bunch of baloney. So I wrote about that with The Guardian, and yet I'm like, here I am on LinkedIn.
Why? What do you do with it?
If you hate it so much, why are you on there? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I have to be. I mean, I get leads from LinkedIn. I mean, it is a business to business social community. It's not Twitter where, with the, whatever. Okay, we'll put that aside. It's not Facebook, which has its own issues. LinkedIn, to its credit, if I post something saying like, oh, I oppose the minimum wage, on Twitter, I'd be called, canceled, called out, stripped, quartered, hung, On LinkedIn, you get people, because it's a professional, platform, people will respond with more, gravitas, more professionalism. Do you know what I mean? And I like that. But my clients are there, my customers are there, and my leads are there because we're a B2B company. So I have to.
You do get business out of it.
I do. I definitely do. I get business. I get speaking business out of it, but I get CRM business out of it, believe it or not, more so.
And what do you think drives it? Are you posting about CRM? Are you commenting on other people's posts about how great their CRM is? Or
I drink the Kool-Aid. Can I tell you? I get out there and I do those things. And sometimes I bump into, I look at it like I've got, somebody's a VP of sales or a VP of marketing that comes across my stream. And I'm like, oh man, dude, this is like a potential prospect for Zoho. You know what I mean? And I'll reach out to connect. And sometimes we start up a conversation. It turns into work. So it's definitely, I don't advertise on LinkedIn because it's super expensive. And I don't even get the advertising on LinkedIn because I never really see any ads on LinkedIn. But I do post and I do reach out. I do proactively reach out to their potential prospects. So I do all that, and it works. What can I say? What can I say? It just works.
Are there that many people on LinkedIn? You're the kind of businesses that you would reach out to who don't already have a CRM?
Yes and no. I mean, there's a percentage of my customers that have a CRM but hate it. So sometimes I'll see, like, I'll be in a LinkedIn CRM group and somebody will be complaining about Zoho, and I'll be like, hey, we do Zoho. I think we might be able to help you if you'd like me to spend like half an hour and see what you're up to. Do you know what I mean? So I get leads that way as well when people talk about the products that they have. Just because they have a CRM doesn't mean they're not a prospect for me. And even if they love their CRM, if it's one of the ones that we implement, that's me also saying, hey, I can help you. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. Did you see the Insider ran a piece about LinkedIn last week, which talked about how, in their words, how weird it's getting. And what they were referring to is that maybe because of what you were describing with the problems with all the other social networks, people are starting to reveal more personal information on LinkedIn than they used to. And some business executive wrote about how upset he was to be getting divorced, and initially got a lot of sympathy. And then he got a huge backlash from people who couldn't believe he was sharing this stuff on a, business networking site. Have you seen that as well?
I have not. That's a really good point. I have not seen that. I don't know if I want to see it on LinkedIn.
Right, exactly.
I have to tell you, it's funny, Lauren, maybe I'd like to write about this. Like, I think these social media platforms are actually really starting to diverge. Like, I think about the world right now, like the big three to me, because I'm, my demographic, it's not necessarily Instagram or TikTok, but it's LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, And like, Facebook is like a personal site that I think you can talk about the breakup of your marriage if you want to, among other personal things, because it's a personal thing. LinkedIn is a professional site. Twitter is just a site, like it's supposed to be like a town hall where a bunch of lunatics going back and forth sharing opinions.
Well, it's cornered the market on that.
Yeah, and you know what? There's room for that as well. I actually think that's fine. You want to go and be in that community and engage on Twitter, go ahead and do your thing, but it's not good for LinkedIn and it's not good for Facebook, I think. But I can see there's three big platforms kind of diverging. And as a business person, you need to make some decisions where you want to be. I think it's becoming less and less of an option for a business to be on a Twitter, for example, unless I guess you're a journalist is your business. And Facebook also the same thing. I think it's just becoming that much more of a consumer, individual, personal type of place as opposed to a professional business place. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. Instagram's the other one. I mean, if you have a visual business of some sort or a restaurant, you kind of need to be there.
It's true, but then again, Instagram is Facebook, right? I mean, it's owned by the same company, and there's a lot of back and forth.
Not the same site, but yeah.
So
you're right.
There's overlap there. It's interesting.
All right. Gene Marks is a CPA who writes weekly on small business for The Guardian, The Hill, The Philadelphia Inquirer, The Washington Times, The Chicago Daily Herald, Forbes, and Entrepreneur. You can also hear him on ABC Radio's Eye on the World with John Batchelor. Gene hosts 2 small business podcasts with Paychex Corporation and The Hartford. Gene, anything coming up that we should look for?
Well, next week I'm going to be writing about companies that pay their employees the day that they work. Get ready.
Why do they do that?
Why? Because they can attract better employees that way, Lauren. 3 out of 5 workers are living paycheck to paycheck, dude. Okay?
Interesting.
Why would they do that? Come on. All right. Well, then you're going to read the article. You'll learn.
You're right. I always read your articles. This episode was brought to you by The Great Game of Business, which helps businesses use an open book management system to help build healthier companies. You can learn more at greatgame.com. Thank you, Gene.
Thank you, Lauren. We'll talk to you soon.
Have a great week, everyone.